Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us for our second Global Community Conversations. My name is Carla Walker. We are pleased to have interpretation services provided by Certified Interpreters United. Please select the language channel you would like to listen to. You will find that in your Zoom toolbar. And please make sure to mute the original so you only hear the interpreter. Today, our focus is on libraries and literature. And we have an incredible group of experts as our panel. But to start, Sidney Sheldon was an American writer who said, library store the they open up windows to the achieve and to improve. Libraries build communities, and today's community is a global one. I want to introduce our panel of speakers today, and after their presentations, we will have a brief discussion about the power of libraries and literature. Stay with us for an interactive apero following our formal event. Please add your questions in the chat, and we will open up that question answer session to the audience. Our guest panelists include Juliette Lenoir, the Director of Libraries in Nancy, Michelle Howe-Gauchot, who is the head of the Board of Directors of the Friends of the American Library, an association dedicated to purchasing documents for the American Library in Nancy, as well as communicating about the library in Nancy and beyond. Patricia Van Skaik, who is the Executive Director of the Lloyd Library and Museum in Cincinnati, an independent research library specializing in pharmacy and alternative medicine, botany, scientific history, exploration, travel, and the visual arts. Sharon Draper is a professional educator as well as an accomplished writer of over 30 award-winning books for adolescents and teachers, including Out of My Mind, Le Silence d'une Mélodie en Français, which you will hear more about shortly. I apologize for the video tech hiccups. Hopefully our internet connection stabilizes. We will begin with our English speaking presenters and then switch to our French presenters. Sharon Draper will present first to frame the conversation. As she speaks, if you have any questions, please add them to the chat and we will have time to discuss after the presentations. Mrs. Draper.
Good morning. Bonjour. I am honored to be here. I'm delighted to be here. It's been a very long time since I was a student in high school and able to practice my French. I got to visit Paris once, but I would love to be able to visit Nancy one day. As introduction to what I do, I'm a writer, I'm a reader, I'm a lover of language and literature. I was a teacher of language and literature. I was Miss Carla's teacher of language and literature many, many years ago. Which is how we got back together. We've stayed friends over the years. Literature is the kind of thing that helps the world to not be quite so large, but to be smaller. because literature is about people. It's about problems. It's about life and how we face it. It's about the difficulties of life, the joys of life. And I became a writer partly because I needed to share those difficulties and those joys. I write mostly for young people between the ages of 11 and maybe 17, but my books are for anyone. And I've been doing this for over 35 years. The book that I want to talk about just for a moment is a book that in English is called Out of My Mind, and in French is called Le Silence de Mélodie. And I'm really excited that it's available in French and about 30 other languages as well. But I'm very, very excited that it is available there. And I know that it is available at the library in Nancy. The book is about a girl who's 11 years old, and she cannot talk and she cannot walk. Therefore, people see nothing in her because she cannot speak and because she cannot walk. So she's caught inside her mind. So the story is called Out of My Mind, or Le Silence de Mélodie, where her silence is opened and she is able to finally say what's on her mind, what she thinks about, what she sees, how she values a butterfly, how she struggles to be understood. And it's awful to have a brilliant mind and not to be understood. But many people have that same kind of problem, whether it's a physical disability or a mental disability, where we approach people differently because we do not understand them. So the purpose of the book is to help us understand. It's 100% fiction. It's a made-up story, but by reading fiction, we can understand reality. We can understand each other. So throughout the course of the novel, young Melody struggles and strives and succeeds and fails, because that's what life is all about. She has a victory at the end, but it's a bittersweet victory. But I think by sharing her story, we can all understand a little bit of others. I hope that we have time at the end for questions, but I'm delighted to be able to share Miss Melody with the world. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. We will move now to Patricia Van Skaik from the Lloyd Library and Museum in Cincinnati, who is another dear friend of mine, and I'm a big fan of the Lloyd. Patricia?
Well, welcome from Cincinnati and the Lloyd Library and Museum. I'm very happy to, are we good?
Perfect.
Okay. So I'm happy to be here, part of this conversation on libraries and literature. The Lloyd Library is located in downtown Cincinnati at 917 Plum Street. And if you happen to be familiar with Cincinnati, we are right across the parking lot from City Hall. We were founded by three brothers in the 1870s, and from left to right, they're pictured here: Curtis Gates Lloyd, Nelson Ashley Lloyd, and John Uri Lloyd. And they were all trained as pharmacists, and the library was originally created to assist them and others with their research of pharmaceuticals, which they would eventually manufacture. So they weren't just any kind of pharmacist. They ascribed to the eclectic school of medicine, which in today's terms we might consider alternative medicine. It was unlike traditional medicine of the time that focused on poisoning disease out of the body, and it focused on making the body healthy, stronger, and looking to nature, especially plants, for treatments and remedies for disease. They were committed conservationists and outdoorsmen, but they also, even from the beginning, didn't just focus on the scientific and medical aspects of plants. One of the brothers in particular, Curtis Gates Lloyd, was what we would today call an ethnobotanist, or an anthropologist and botanist combined. And he was interested in how people all over the world used plants for any purpose at all. Also, when they began collecting, there was not the strong division that there is today between arts and sciences. And so a botanist, certainly in the period before photography, needed to also be an artist or closely work with an artist. So again, from the beginning, not necessarily intentionally, our collection had a very strong art focus. These are all of the places that Curtis Gates Lloyd traveled to both collect information on the use of plants, as well as where he collected books. And in several of these places and continents, he had book dealers that worked for him and kept an eye out. He had an apartment in Paris, and he also had a book dealer in Paris who was responsible for some of the most fabulous things we have in our collection, including, I think I should, in the previous slide, the botanical art you see is from an 1835 book by a French botanist. It's just one of many. It's very rare. Few libraries or collectors in the world have this. We've continued to grow through the 140 some years. Our oldest book goes back to the 1400s, and we have over 250,000 items in our collection. Really want to point out that we are a live collection, which doesn't mean that we have plants growing here, but means that we continue to add to our collection every year. In fact, a significant part of our budget is collection development. Some of these are old, rare, historic works. Some of them even that Curtis Gates Lloyd wanted to buy, but couldn't find or get. But we also, the latest breaking important works of today, so that our collections have appeal to a wide range of users. And importantly, they'll have appeal to someone 50 or 100 years from now. As I mentioned, the Lloyd Library was started to facilitate scientific and medical research. Today, our audience has really expanded. This was a survey that we sent out asking the people that use the Lloyd Library, how would they identify themselves? This is check all that apply. So, you know, someone could be both a scholar and a gardener. But again, I think you can see the spread of people that use us. And you'll also notice that the artists group is larger than the group that strictly defines themselves as scientists, although we, again, do get a lot of scientific researchers. So we didn't just collect materials from all over the world, but we have a global reach as well. And we always have. There are correspondence in our archives from people contacting the Lloyd Library and visiting the Lloyd Library from overseas, going back to the late 19th century. What you see right here, and this was a couple months ago, or actually quite a few months ago, the numbers are bigger than this, but these are all of the countries that visited our website in a month. And it represents 140 foreign countries and 101 languages. And France is in the top 10 of visits to our library and visit to our website remotely. When we were Pre-COVID, we had as many out of town and often out of country researchers as we did people that are here in Cincinnati. We're extremely proud of our fellows and artists in residence program, where we award stipends every year to artists or to scholars to come and do research at the Lloyd Library and then turn that into some sort of project, whether it's an artistic installation or a book that they're working on. You know, we're quite flexible with that, and we really get top-rate artists and scholars that they use our collection, but then it takes the collection a step further. Which sort of gets to my next point, is that absolutely we want to bring our collections to life. We don't feel like they serve us that well if they're only available to a few researchers, or even if the books are in pristine condition, if they're in our stacks and never come to see the light of day. So we have a very robust exhibition and event series. So we try to take items from our collection and then use that to springboard to give them meaning for today. This is pre-COVID, but our events are also very fun. We think learning is fun. We think cultural enrichment is fun. We think making connections is fun. And you have to take my word on this, but the folks you see smiling and hugging and talking didn't necessarily know each other before they walked in the door. So it is a real place for people to connect. We're also not just about having fun and looking at pretty books, but we really want to inform contemporary issues of the day. And we think our collections are a great starting place for that. So some of the things that we have as topics that we have explored are things like food scarcity, climate change, and the medical use of marijuana. Our collections absolutely spark creativity, but we like to take that a step further and actually have events that spark creativity and let people get their hands dirty, if you will. So what you see here is a bookmaking workshop inspired by our collection. And on the right, you see a mother-daughter pair that came in for a workshop to make botanical wreaths from things obviously not from our collection, collected outdoors. This month is International Women's Month, or sometimes in the States, Women's History Month. And again, we like to connect with very important issues going on. And so this month we have both a virtual and in-person exhibition. We launched a 4-part podcast on two naturalists and scientists and their trip out west through the eyes of a letter to their friends, to their friend Elizabeth. So hence, Dear Elizabeth. A really important snapshot of these two women are famous scientists, but most people only know the professional side of them. So we were really excited to be able to integrate their personal side with their professional side, as well as a lecture by one of our fellows on Cincinnati's early pioneering women scientists. So Carla asked me to think about ways that we might collaborate. And this is just to get the creative juices flowing. Of course, visit the Lloyd. If you can come in person, that is fantastic. But if you can't come in person, we've got lots of virtual ways for you to do that. Podcasts, webinars, our digital collection. And I really want to encourage you to look at our social media, especially Instagram. We've got a very large following. I noticed just this morning we were featuring works by a French botanist. So certainly visit our social media. We'd like to be of assistance to you. those requests that I showed you from 140 foreign countries, we get requests from some of the most prestigious medical, educational, environmental organizations in the world asking us to send information to them. But you don't have to be, you could just be interested and have something that you would like us to help you with. So send us your research questions. We will send you scans from our collection. One idea that I had, and this is just to sort of mull over with the representatives from the American Library and Nancy, is that perhaps the Lloyd Library and your library could do some sort of material exchange where we would choose a book or a couple of books that we find significant from our viewpoint, and you would do the same, and we would treat the other with those. I think there's some opportunity for fellowships if people are here for Sister City events to do a mini fellowship or something like that. And we do have French things in our collection. I'm not talking about books, but letters between our founders and people in France that we could really use some assistance on knowing what they had to say. I've got our website. You can contact me and really see links to everything I talked about today through our website. So thank you, and my apologies for going over time a little bit.
Thank you so much. I am, as I said, a big fan of the Lloyd and the work that you do to keep that jewel of an institution active in Cincinnati. And I am a very proud member of your board of directors. I'm going to now turn the floor over to our French colleague, Juliette Lenoir, who is the director of libraries in Nancy. Juliette, you have the floor.
Merci. Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour à Cincinnati et bonjour à Nancy. Alors, effectivement, je suis directrice des bibliothèques de Nancy, c'est-à-dire les bibliothèques municipales de Nancy. Alors, un peu d'histoire des bibliothèques municipales de Nancy. Alors, c'est au XVIIIe siècle que les bibliothèques ont été fondées. En 1750, la Lorraine ne fait pas partie de la France. C'est un duché qui est donc gouverné par un duché ami de la France tout de même, puisque le duc de Lorraine s'appelle Stanislas et qu'il a marié sa fille Marie au roi de France. Et il a été entendu au moment du mariage qu'à la mort de Stanislas, le duché de Lorraine reviendrait à la France. Et c'est donc à la mort de Stanislas en 1766 que la Lorraine et la France se sont réunies. Alors, en 1750, au moment de la fondation de la bibliothèque, donc la Lorraine est encore un duché indépendant de la France. Et à cette époque-là, la plupart des bibliothèques importantes appartiennent soit aux familles aristocratiques, soit aux maisons religieuses. Ensuite, la Révolution française, 1789 et dans les années suivantes, va confisquer toutes ces grandes bibliothèques. Et puis ensuite les mettra à disposition du public à partir de 1803. Mais avant la Révolution, il y a peu d'accès à des grandes bibliothèques pour le public. C'est un cas particulier à Nancy puisque le roi, on l'appelle le roi Stanislas parce qu'il a été roi de Pologne avant d'être duc de Lorraine. Et disons, le duc Stanislas, duc de Lorraine, décide de créer une bibliothèque publique ouverte à la population. Dans sa ville capitale de Nancy. Et c'est très représentatif de l'esprit de Stanislas, qui était un duc très influencé par l'esprit des Lumières. qui, à
Duke, very
l'époque,
influenced by, did the interpreter hear the
apparaît à
lunaire
Paris et
spirit?
qui conduira petit à petit avec Voltaire et tous ces grands
And
philosophes et
the
penseurs
current philosophical
français et qui
spirit,
conduira à la Révolution.
Voltaire
Donc
and
c'est
the
un duc moderne
the other people
qui
behind
décide de fonder
the
la
French
bibliothèque de
Revolution.
Nancy.
He was a modern duke who decided to found the Nancy
Elle va être
Library.
installée dans un beau bâtiment
He
quelques
lived-
années après qui a
he
été
or it
construit
was
pour servir
installed in a
d'université
beautiful
et avec des boiseries.
building that later would serve
Alors je
as
suis en ce moment dans le bureau
university,
du
and there
directeur,
were
donc du
woods and
conservateur,
forests around it. Right now,
qui
I'm
a
in
des
the
boiseries du
director's
début du XXe
minute.
siècle, mais les salles au
The
public
director's
ont des
office.
boiseries beaucoup plus
And
anciennes qui
they
datent
had
du
woodworking
XVIIIe siècle.
that
Je vais vous
dated from the
tourner
18th
comme ça.
century. I'm going to turn my camera so I'm
Voilà,
hoping you can see
une
it.
photo de la grande
Here's a
salle
photo of the big room, the great room
de la bibliothèque
of
historique
the
de
library,
Nancy.
the historical library of Nancy, with its
Alors,
famous historic woodwork.
tout au long du 19e siècle, cette
All
bibliothèque a
through the
reçu des
19th
dons
century, this
et des legs
library
qui lui a permis d'avoir
donations
un fonds
and
ancien,
inheritance
d'avoir des collections historiques
that
tout à fait
let it
significatives et très importantes.
expand its
Nous avons,
collection
alors la
to a
pièce
very
la plus
important collection.
ancienne,
The oldest piece that we
c'est un
have,
camée, c'est-à-dire une pierre gravée,
it's a cameo, an
qui
engraved
date du
stone
1er
that
siècle,
dates
qui
from
date
the
des années
first
60
century,
et
from the
qui
year
vient
60 of
de
our
Rome,
era,
de la
that comes
maison
from
de
Rome, from the
l'empereur
home of the
romain Néron,
Emperor Néron.
et qui est conservé depuis la
Ce qui est
Révolution dans
conservé
cette
depuis la
bibliothèque.
it's
Et
been kept
puis,
since
sinon,
the
on a des
Revolution
documents qui
in
datent
the
du
library.
Moyen-Âge et
And otherwise, we
évidemment de
have
tous les
Middle
siècles
Ages
jusqu'à
documents from
aujourd'hui,
all the centuries
notamment
up
grâce
to
à ces
today,
grandes
and
donations.
especially thanks to these large donations that the library has received.
À partir de la deuxième moitié du XXe siècle, la ville de Nancy va développer son réseau de bibliothèques et créer notamment la grande bibliothèque pour la lecture publique qui est construite qui est aménagée dans une ancienne manufacture de tabac à côté du théâtre et du conservatoire de musique et de danse et qui est la bibliothèque la plus importante en termes de fréquentation. Elle est destinée aux familles, à tous les publics. Elle a un département de jeux vidéo qui est grand et qui plaît beaucoup au public, même s'il est fermé en ce moment pour cause de pandémie. Les bibliothèques sont ouvertes, mais certains secteurs sont fermés. Aujourd'hui, tout peut changer à chaque instant. Nous avons aussi deux bibliothèques plus petites dans les quartiers périphériques et nous avons trois bibliothèques numériques qui s'appellent l'Immédiat, L-I-M-E-D-I-A.
L-I-M-E-D-I-A. So, l'Immédiat.
Voilà. Et alors, il y a trois bibliothèques. La galerie où nous avons mis les collections historiques écrites, manuscrites, imprimées ou dessinées. La bibliothèque, celle qui s'appelle kiosque, nous avons mis la presse ancienne numérisée depuis le 19e siècle. Et puis, mosaïque, où nous avons mis les documents contemporains, les e-books, la musique, la presse contemporaine.
Z-book, music and the contemporary press.
Et nous avons construit ces trois bibliothèques numériques avec les villes voisines de Lorraine.
With the surrounding towns of Lorraine.
Voilà, alors nos principaux programmes en ce moment, alors nous avons aussi des programmes sur l'écologie, le développement durable. Par exemple, nous avons installé des graines dans nos bibliothèques. Alors, grainothèque,
A
c'est-à-dire...
grainothèque,
Oui,
yes.
c'est-à-dire des
what we mean.
endroits, des meubles dans la bibliothèque
Places where we have
où
furniture
les clients, les
in the
lecteurs,
library,
les patrons,
where
peuvent
the
déposer
patrons
des graines
can
et
come
prendre
and
d'autres
plant
graines pour faire des
seeds.
échanges
Oh, bring their
de
seeds
semences.
and
Voilà.
take other seeds that they can take home and plant. A grain exchange.
Ça marche très bien parce que
That works
les
very well.
Nancéens
Because
aiment
people from
beaucoup
Nancy
avoir, par exemple,
love to have,
diverses
for
variétés de tomates dans leur
lots
jardin.
of different varieties of tomatoes in their garden.
Et donc, il y a des échanges de
And
graines.
so there are
Voilà.
grain exchanges.
Sinon, nous avons ouvert il y a quelques semaines un jeu
A few weeks ago, we
spécialement organisé pour les enfants
something
au cours
specially
préparatoire,
organized
c'est-à-dire
for,
les enfants de 6 ans qui commencent à écrire,
yes, for
à
first
lire.
graders who are just
Voilà.
starting to go to school and to learn to read.
Voilà. Et c'est un grand jeu dans la ville où ils peuvent, on leur a distribué
it's a citywide game
planche de jeu
where
et ils vont chercher des autocollants
and the children
chez les
can look for
libraires,
stickers
auprès de leurs professeurs dans les écoles
they can get
ou
them
dans
from
les
their school
bibliothèques,
teachers, they can get them from
après avoir
bookshop
réussi le
dealers,
petit défi,
they can get them at school, they
pour
can get them in
compléter leur
various
plateau de
places,
jeu.
and that way they can complete their game board with their collected stickers.
Voilà, c'est le type de proposition que nous faisons
It's the type of composition that we make or that we do.
Pour que nos publics, notre jeune public notamment, puisse circuler dans tous les lieux de lecture de la ville.
All of the reading places,
en l'occurrence, les écoles, les librairies,
especially the schools, libraries, and bookstores.
Voilà. Sinon, nous sommes en train de préparer la présentation au public d'un ensemble de 200 dessins d'architecture du XVIIIe siècle
200 architectural designs from the 18th century.
Que nous venons de recevoir en cadeau et nous en sommes
We
très
have
heureux.
just received that gift of which we are delighted.
Parce que ce sont des monuments importants de Lorraine qui sont dessinés par les grands architectes de l'époque de Stanislas.
By the great architects of the Stanislas period.
Voilà. Et puis nous sommes aussi en train de faire fabriquer un petit triporteur, un petit truck.
A little triporter, a mini truck.
Voilà, qui ressemble un peu à un food truck, un petit mini food truck.
It looks like a mini food truck.
Voilà, et qui va nous servir parce qu'avec la pandémie, nous avons organisé des click and collect. Je sais pas, order and delivery.
Oh, undone delivery?
Voilà, pour que les gens puissent commander les livres et venir les chercher.
People can order books and come and get them, come and pick them up.
Voilà, et nous allons pouvoir les distribuer dans toute la ville avec notre nouveau petit camion que nous attendons pour le mois prochain.
We're hoping to
le
get
type
next
de,
month.
de projet que nous menons ensemble.
That's the type of project
et
that
puis
we're
nous avons
leading
aussi, et je salue Madame Draper,
like
en ce moment une écrivaine en résidence, c'est-à-dire que pendant plusieurs mois, elle passe plusieurs jours par mois avec nous pour écrire son prochain livre et pour rencontrer nos publics.
And meeting our reading public.
Voilà la petite présentation des bibliothèques de Nancy.
And there you have my presentation of the libraries of Nancy. Grand merci, Juliette. J'attends avec plaisir la prochaine opportunité de rendre visite à Nancy et de voir certaines des bibliothèques et de vous rencontrer en personne. Je dois dire que j'aime aussi les tomates. Je pourrais regarder ce que vous faites avec l'échange de graines. C'est un programme formidable. Maintenant, je vais passer la parole à d'autres collègues à Nancy. Michel, des amis de la Bibliothèque américaine à Nancy. Michel, c'est à vous.
Hello, my name is Michelle Howe-Gauchot, and I'm originally from the Midwestern part of the United States. Born in Indiana, I've also lived in Illinois, Missouri, and Michigan. I've lived in Nancy for the past 20 years, working as an English trainer to adult professionals. But something really exciting happened to me back in October when I was elected as president of the board of the Friends of the American Library in Nancy, Amis de la Bibliothèque Américaine en Français. I'm so happy and honored to be here today to talk to you about our library, our association, and what we do. I'm now going to call up my presentation. First of all, the American Library in Nancy is located at 34 Cours Les Boulds in Nancy. You can see the building in which we are housed here in the photograph. As you can see, the title of this slide is One of These Libraries is Not Like the Other. Our library has a very unique situation due to its history, which is quite a complicated one that I won't get into here. We opened our doors in 1974, and we are the largest Anglophone library in Eastern France. What makes us unique is that we are both a university library and an associative library. The University of Lorraine provides us with a space to welcome the public, as well as 2 librarians, and all university faculty, staff, and students have access to our collection. The Friends of the American Library is an association that was formed in 1988 to save the library from closure. It was formed by a group of amazing women who were hell-bent on keeping American literature and culture available to the residents of the city of Nancy. The members of our association have full access to our collection, as well as access to activities we provide, which I will speak about shortly. Let's talk about the American Library and its partnership with the University of Lorraine. The university has been a helpful partner in the development of the library. The university provides us with a space to welcome the public, as well as with amazing librarians who speak English and are so knowledgeable about our collection. They also catalog and manage the collections, and they do a great job. The university and the librarians also promote the scientific and technical side of Anglophone culture by creating promotional events around Fête de la Science. For example, Fête de la Science is a French national celebration of science and innovation. So what do the Friends of the American Library do? As I mentioned before, the Friends of the American Library was born of a need to keep the doors of the library open. 4 passionate women refused to see Nancy deprived of the opportunity to access American literature and culture because of budget cuts and political changes. Our mission as an association is to purchase documents for the library and spread the word in Nancy and beyond. Historically, we have done this in various ways, and our vision for the future is to build on the foundations of our predecessors. Through membership fees as well as grants from the City of Nancy, the Metropolitan Organization, and various generous grants, the Friends of the American Library has been purchasing books, magazines, newspapers, and DVDs since its inception. Before I talk about our weekly activities, I'd like to mention how COVID has moved our library forward, even though it's been obliged to stand still. Our library was closed back in March with the first lockdown here in France. It reopened on very restricted basis back in September, and those restrictions continue to today. Currently, the library is only open to university staff and students through appointments. We do have click and collect for our Friends of the American Library members so they can access documents, but meeting for our weekly activities became impossible. After much deliberation, the Friends of the American Library decided to invest in a Zoom account to allow these sessions to go on, and even add a few for folks who can't get to the library during open hours. It's been both a curse and a blessing, but it really has been nice, I think, for our members to connect with people from the United States and all around the world. The Friends of the American Library also organizes conferences that allow our members to explore different aspects of Anglo-Saxon culture. These have also gone online until we can open our doors again. A couple of examples in the past few months are in December we had a history professor join us online from Missouri Western State University to explain the Electoral College and how it works. In February and March, we had a web series led by a conservationalist about the national park system in the United States. Finally, we celebrated cultural events that happen throughout the year. For example, We will be celebrating a French tradition with Poets Springtime in April by asking our members to contribute their own poetry as well as favorite poetry, which will then be put into a booklet, which will be online this year, and discussed in an online session or maybe two. And of course, we can't forget our annual Thanksgiving feast, which unfortunately had to be canceled last year. We're hoping this year it will go on as planned. So how can we collaborate? The American Library in Nancy has been involved with the Cincinnati Nancy Sister City Association for many years. The former president of the American Library has been a driving force in our involvement. By welcoming delegations from Nancy and making visits to Cincinnati to explore the libraries there, it's such a great way for us to connect. I would like to organize roundtable discussions, through Zoom for example, between our members and members of the libraries in Cincinnati to talk about our cities, their history, their culture, and our commonalities and differences. It could be an excellent opportunity to make new friends and reinforce the bond between our two cities. It could all be in French, or perhaps half in French and half in English in case people would like to practice their French. The Lloyd Library provides us with a unique opportunity to give the number of scientific researchers we have here in Nancy. I would love it if we could organize conferences or discussions between our scientific communities to share insights. If we ever get out of this pandemic, it would be wonderful if we could welcome a delegate or a delegation from Cincinnati to the American Library to have a tour, participate in some of our activities, and celebrate our newfound freedom together over a drink. I am really looking forward to seeing what we can accomplish together between sister cities to improve Franco-American relations and what we can contribute to our beloved communities. Also, anyone who would like to support the American Library in Nancy by becoming a member of the Friends of the American Library, you can do so by following the link here. Thanks so much to Carla and the Cincinnati Nancy Sister City Association for this opportunity to speak about what we are doing.
Hey, thank you so very much, Michelle. We really do enjoy visiting the library and participating as much as we can when we are in Nancy or when we have visited. And I cannot wait until there is an opportunity for us to visit in person. I want to open it up now to ask the panelists one or two questions since we have just a little bit of time left. And I wonder if there are any questions that any of our attendees have. If so, please do put them in the chat. While you all think about what questions you would like to ask, I want to share with the panel that the American Library Association does have a sister library program and guidelines to develop those relationships. And it sounds like there are a number of opportunities to connect not only the libraries and the individuals on this call, but to connect our libraries, many more of our libraries together. I would like to hear your thoughts on what programs you would like to see initially as part of some of our sister city, if we were to do a sister city library program. I'll start with Patricia, some ideas. I know you had initially presented some ideas. Is there one of those you would like to start with that is more ready to go than any of the others?
I think I liked what Michelle talked about in terms of the scientific research there. So I think if there was something that Michelle and I could collaborate on in terms of getting the word out to what we could do to help the scientific community there, and also cross promote things that on our end. I also liked very much hearing Juliette, and I think, I don't know, I can't speak for Juliette, but I think that it might be very possible to do some sort of book exchange With regard to fellowships, our fellowship program is kind of in limbo this year because our 2020 fellows that were from out of town are scheduling their visits this year. So we don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but we do have the opportunity to revamp it a little bit. And with Carla being on the board, I certainly would pick her brain. So this isn't something that we could do immediately, but it's something that things are already sort of taken apart. So as we put it back together, we could look at that as an option. And I'm going to echo what Sharon said and also what Michelle said. Not only would we love to have you here, I would love to come there. So, so those are the things. It's sort of repetitive of what I already said, but maybe gives them a little order of priority.
Great, thank you. Juliette, I wonder if I could hear your thoughts after hearing some of the programs at the Lloyd Library, where you think there might be some connection.
Oui, ça serait formidable, aussi bien qu'une visite de nos amis français à Cincinnati. Il y a une dernière question à répondre. Je pense que c'est pour Sharon. C'est à propos de l'inspiration pour le livre. L'inspiration pour Out of My Mind. Et après, je crois qu'il y a deux questions. Donc, l'inspiration pour Out of My Mind. Et ensuite, on demandera à Jenny O'Donnell si elle parlait un peu de la bibliothèque mercantile. Donc, le silence de mélodie Out of My Mind. C'est sorti de mon cœur. Ça s'appelle depuis mon esprit, depuis ma pensée, mais c'est vraiment de mon cœur. C'est à propos des enfants qui sont tout à fait comme d'autres enfants, mais qui n'ont pas la capacité physiologique de dire aux autres ce à quoi ils pensent. Malgré l'âge de la personne, il y a énormément d'individus qui ont des pensées, des rêves, des espoirs, des inspirations, mais qui ne peuvent pas les communiquer. Mélodie, le personnage principal du livre, parle pour nous tous qui ne peuvent pas parler. Même certains d'entre nous qui peuvent parler ne peuvent pas véritablement partager nos pensées avec autrui à cause des peurs, des difficultés quelconques, à cause des problèmes physiologiques ou même des problèmes de langue. Nous ne pouvons pas partager nos idées. C'est dans mon espoir que Mélodie et son histoire pourront aider nous joindre en tant qu'individus de pouvoir communiquer les uns avec les autres, avec les enseignants, les bibliothécaires et les gens qui s'occupent des enfants et qui les aiment et qui ne seront plus silencieux pour que Mélodie ait une voix. Eh bien, auparavant, dans la présentation, nous avons partagé le concept de la première page de Mélodie. Et nous avons partagé ça en français. Allez, est-ce que vous pourrez le partager en anglais sur l'écran, mais aussi le mettre dans le chat pour que nos amis en France pourraient le copier s'ils le désirent. Alors, nous avons un peu dépassé le temps, mais il nous reste quelques temps pour Jenny O'Donnell de parler un peu. Si vous êtes disponible, Jenny, si vous pouvez parler, nous donner une idée de quoi il s'agit de la bibliothèque mercantile. Je sais que vous êtes nouveau membre. Jenny, vous êtes là? Oui, la bibliothèque mercantile. C'est une ressource formidable, je pense. Quand nous avions notre délégation de Nancy en 2015, quand ils sont venus nous rendre visite, nous avons en fait quelqu'un, le précédent de la bibliothèque à Cincinnati, et qui avait rendu visite à plusieurs bibliothèques. À ce moment, nous cherchions à explorer des possibilités potentielles, Eh bien, je suis ravie de vous avoir avec nous. Je suis Françoise, nous sommes heureux de vous avoir avec nous. Eh bien, voilà notre rencontre formelle et conversation formelle. Et donc, à sa fin, je remercie Juliette Lenoir, Michel Howe-Gauchot, Sharon Draper et Mademoiselle Van Skaik et aux interprètes qui ont donné l'interprétation. Je vous en prie. Merci. Merci à Roxane. Joignez-vous à nous pour l'événement au mois d'avril. Nous allons pouvoir envoyer les renseignements par chat et on vous l'enverra à la suite. Nous avons beaucoup entendu parler à propos du changement climatique, des programmations écologiques par les bibliothèques et comment rendre plus vert nos